All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to it. This is our final block, public complimentary Zoom classes as part of my 100, my commitment to teach, record, and upload 100 complimentary hours of martial arts classes to try to help as many different people as possible who might benefit from those classes. Like always, please go to stoopsomalc.com to get set up with further classes and to formalize your training with me and earn rank from anywhere in the world. Anyways, let's get to it and we'll bow in. We always acknowledge all the different martial arts from all over the world, no matter what we're studying. So Chinese, Filipino, Thai, Indonesian, French and Dog Brothers, Japanese. All right, we're going to start with big arm circles to the front. We're going to get a light warm-up going this morning since we are going to kick and punch. And we're going to go backwards. Palms out, medium-sized circles. Change directions. Palms down, small circles. Change directions. Good, alternating hugs, takes all that tension out of your shoulders. Good, let's do this right arm. We're going to use our left arm to stretch out our right arm. Very nice, and then we're going to switch sides. All right, very good. Take your left hand, put it on top of your right hand. Palm up, right hand, palm down, left hand is going to stretch it out. And then we're going to put ourselves in this wrist twist. All right, let's work our other hand, right hand on top of the left. Like I've been saying lately, you are putting yourself essentially in a wrist lock, so do get a stretch, but don't injure yourself. All right, palm up, grab your fingers, stretched out. All right, wrist twist it. All right, then just shake all that tension out of your wrists, out of your hands, out of your fingers. Good deal. Okay, let's go static first this morning. Right hand on your chin, left hand on your right elbow. Push your head back. Good. Both hands on the back of your head, elbows in. Pull your chin to your chest. Okay, right hand is going to pull to the right. And left hand's going to pull to the left. All right, very good. Then let's look left and look right. All right, look up and look down. Alternate trying to touch your temples to your shoulders. Good. Put your feet together, hands on your knees, knee rotations one direction. Change directions. Very good. Feet about shoulder width apart. Hip rotations one direction. Go the other way. Okay, time. Very good. So we're going to continue our work on my kickboxing curriculum, and I'm gonna go very quickly through level 1, which was broken down the last time we did a weekend session. It was that last weekend, but I'll kind of go through everything just a little bit faster than we did it when I was going in great detail. So if we're in a left lead, we're gonna treat it like most of the population is right hand, and in a lot of contemporary martial athletics, we're gonna have, we're gonna be in an orthodox lead with our dominant side in the rear. So my lead straight punch is my jab. I want 3 points of protection, 1, 2, and on the straight punch, I want this shoulder for that flash of a second. I want to be covered, right? Because when my opponent is in punching range, that means I'm in punching range too, especially if you're like me and you have shorter arms. My arms are just shorter. It is what it is. So when they're in punching range, my opponent, I'm definitely in punching range. So yes, it's an offensive tool, but in that moment, I want to throw it with as much attention to detail so that I'm as protected as possible. My cross is going to be the rear straight punch. And I talked about this last time. Some boxing schools, it's not a cross unless it crosses your center line. They'll call this a straight right hand and this a cross. For our purposes, we're just going to call it a cross because we have enough tools to deal with. But the most important parts, again, 1, 2, and then that shoulder, 3 points of protection in that moment that we flash that cross, okay? My hook is here. I want to work generating my power through my body mechanics. So it's a tight circle back. My body hook is here. It's got exactly the same mechanics. I just lower the elevation a little bit. We're only really, with the curve punches, we're only going to be able to have 2 points of protection, 1, 2, because you have to disconnect that in that moment, even if it's a super tight hook, just based on the direction and the shape of that punch. So that's our hook and our body hook. Nothing wrong with throwing a rear hook or a rear body hook, but in terms of allocation of time, most people develop a strong lead hook and body hook faster, but you can certainly work the rear kind of in your own training. We don't have any rear hooks really in any of the curricular progressions. My uppercuts are here. And, anybody who trains with me in almost any art where we punch, that one of my pet peeves is opening to shoot that and then getting knocked out in that moment that you open. So, I like to say dip the elevation, go low, and uppercuts always need to come off your face. It's very important. So we have the uppercuts. Overhands are going to be here, right? It's basically a downward diagonal hook. And this one, we are going to work lead and rear. Uppercuts, we are going to work lead and rear. And again, nothing wrong with, like I was saying, a rear hook. Just most people will develop the skill in the lead. Okay, so those are singular tools. And so are going into Thai boxing real quick and looking at solo tools, and really we have a mind to add to, because all those punches I just went over are legal in Thai boxing. And again, remember, when we're in the kickboxing curriculum, we're looking through the lens of martial athletics. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just means there's a rule set that we have to follow. Western boxing, doesn't matter if it's pro boxing for a title. It doesn't matter if it's amateur boxing through USA boxing. There's going to be rules. It's martial athletics. Savate is the same way. Thai boxing is the same way. Submission grappling would be the same way. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu would be the same way. Those are all awesome martial arts. Just acknowledge when you're really spending a lot of time training with a rule set, because that is going to impact the way that you perform. So you want to be aware of that. Okay, so for Thai boxing, when we get in this kind of tight, almost like, it looks almost like a left lead Baizhang stance if you have a JKD background. This is what Ajahn Chai calls the box stance, all right? And he, again, box in this case is short for boxing. And I like to teach you what he calls things in case you ever get the chance to train with him. So the key to box stance is just think in line. Everything's in line. Your hands are in line. I know my feet are out of the frame, but I'm very much like my left shoulder is forward and my right side of my body is very much in line behind my left side. So as a curricular requirement in both this program and the kids program, when I say, okay, now we're in Thai boxing, show me your box stance, that's really all I need to see, is just freeze that out. And then the only other minor detail is just make sure your rear heel is up off the ground, which I know my feet again aren't visible in the shot. Then we're going to have the static kick stance. So more full front, right? Like I like to say, my sternum is now pointing outwards. I'm still in a left lead. I know, you know, my legs are kind of out of the frame. My left hand is in front. Both hands are up. And the visual, I'm not going to take my gloves off right now. If you were holding two knives point down in Pakal or ice pick grip, if you had the points pointed at your opponent, that's kind of the mindset that you want to have, right? It's bottoms of your hands pointed out. And then, like I said, it's hard to see from the front. Left hand is slightly in front of the right hand. Both fists are at about eyebrow level, and we want our chin tucked down, okay? And for many years in the WTBA, our hands were even, made it a little bit easier, and then the last maybe 6 years, the left hand is slightly in the front. So that's a teaching position that I kind of developed that I call the static kick stance, okay? And the reason I teach that is so that, like in my kids program, if we want to get started right away learning, let's see. I'm sorry, everybody. I just have one participant that's having trouble getting in. I apologize. But anyway, so what I was saying is that the idea of doing a static kick stance is something that I developed. And I'm so sorry, everybody. Give me 1 second. Okay, excuse me for that. All right. So when you start training with Ajahn Chai, you know, the founder, president of the Thai Boxing Association, he starts you on what I like to call the mobile kick stance right away. So that's what we were doing, but hands are making small circles back towards you. Everything is the same as I described in terms of my hand positioning. Let me change the angle here. Every time, and I know my hands have now exited the frame. Every time my hands make a rotation, I'm stepping. So I know my hands are out of the frame. Every single rotation back towards me, you can see I'm stepping on either foot, right? So sometimes as a group, we'll count this 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And this is the actual stance itself. The other thing to take note of is neither heel is touching down. Neither heel is touching down. Okay, I'm on the ball of both feet. Let me go back to the high line now that you understand what's happening on the low line. Okay, so, that way I'm actually mostly in the frame. You can see my feet, okay? So it's here. This is where we want to be. This is the kick stance. And when we start our training, Ajahn Chai will let's say total, it's a 2-day, 10-hour seminar, 5 hours each day. He might spend a total of that 10 hours, maybe 2 hours on the stance. That's always the first thing that he teaches. And just so everybody's clear, he's never going to say static kick stance versus mobile kick stance. He's just going to say kick stance or stance, and it's this one. This one with the movement, okay? And, you know, Ajahn Chai has the perspective that he does, which is the stance is the most important thing to develop, almost so much so that he doesn't really want to move on until people kind of have that. And so what I did, since I've spent so many years now, you know, I've been with him 15 years now. I've watched and I've gone through it, like people trying to really get that down so that, you know, it kind of meets with his approval, which is excellent when he thinks your kick stance looks good. What I did is just because I'm teaching Thai boxing in the context of several martial arts at once, I just developed the idea that you just hold the static position and then we can start to learn our tools from there. Okay, so that's something I developed. And again, I'm going to explicitly put this on video. I'm not saying I know more than Ajahn Chai. I'm explaining, for me, it's a different context because I'm teaching Thai boxing along with several other martial arts. Ajahn Chai is teaching Thai boxing, and he's still got that, you know, all those decades of just training fighters. So for fighters, they've got to have that stance down before it's worthwhile for them to learn anything else. So that's the reason why, again, you won't ever hear him say static kick stance versus mobile kick stance. It'll just be kick stance or stance, and you'll be working on this one that I'm doing here. So I hope that's clear for everybody that's watching, because we're going to use our static kick stance to go over all of our tools. So in the first level of my kickboxing curriculum, left or lead horizontal elbow. That's the first elbow. We cover right and we elbow with the left. Now, all the elbows in Thai boxing, let me take my gloves off for a moment here too. All the elbows in Thai boxing, I want you to flex your forearm. We turn the knuckles out, very similar to angle 5 in our first numbering system in Filipino martial arts. how we're using that little flex of the forearm to give it a little bit more kind of oomph, right? So here, this is the first elbow that I teach. Lead horizontal elbow. And we learn it, we learn it out of a static kick stance, okay? And the modality would normally be this, and I spend a little bit more time these days because I don't, I haven't been teaching a lot of kickboxing formally in my adult classes, at least during quarantine times. So this would be the protocol, right? So the people for like an adult kickboxing class, the people who are new, who are just learning it, they would be holding a static kick stance. That way they have the stance to train out of. The people with more experience would be doing their mobile kick stance because they have more time with it, right? Like I explained. And then usually I would say, okay, everybody, lead horizontal elbow, go, sock. And you would do the elbow, you say sock, spelled S-A-W-K, but pronounced like the things that you wear on your feet under, inside of your shoes, right? You freeze it, you hold it, and then I said reset. And if you're working your static, you go back to the static. If you're working your mobile, you go back to your mobile, okay? And the verbalization is important for reasons that I explained before, and I'll explain again before we end this session for sure. But that's the procedure. And that way, again, everybody's working relative to their level. So people who are brand new, they're just trying to get a good static kick stance. People who have more experience, they're used to mobile kick stance. And then, I call it, okay, lead horizontal elbow, ready, go, sock. And everybody freezes it, reset. And then they go back. If it's mobile, they go back to mobile. If it's static, they go back to static. And the nice thing about that procedure is it's a good, like, kind of group think kind of a moment, like everybody's working on it in their own way relative to their level of experience. But so the current cover in the WTBA is here. Whenever we do, like, we're going to look at some other elbows, whatever elbow we're doing, that's, the non-elbowing hand goes here. And, I was showing real quickly when, it would be here with a boxing glove, right? Nothing changes. So you're here, okay? So that's the first elbow in the first level. And okay. I'm so sorry, everybody. Okay. Sorry, it's modern teaching of martial arts through technology. So, okay. So you can certainly, just like the rear hook, you can work on the rear horizontal elbow, but I don't require it, okay? The one that I require is the rear downward diagonal elbow. The rear downward diagonal elbow. That's the one that I require. So lead horizontal, rear downward diagonal elbow. Lead horizontal, rear downward diagonal elbow. And for the rear downward diagonal elbow, cover left, turn this palm out, either open or closed, drop it. And again, for the benefit of the people who train Filipino martial arts with me, it's an angle 1. You're cutting an angle 1 with your right elbow. So you have lead horizontal elbow, rear downward diagonal elbow. Okay, play with that for one moment. I have one thing to attend to in my household. It'll take 30 seconds. Right back with you. Okay, so thank you. So again, for the people who have their mobile kickstands down, they'd be working it out of their mobile, and then usually I call it, okay, rear downward diagonal elbow, go, sock, and we freeze it, and then I say reset, and we go back to it. If you don't have the mobile kickstands down, you're working out of your static kickstands. And again, the only thing I know my feet are out of frame. When I do my static kickstands, I just want to make sure my rear heel is off the ground. Other than that, you're here, sock, and then you wait for me to say reset. And, I'm kind of treating this more informally and just kind of describing the training procedure. And for any instructors watching this who teach kids, it's a really cool modality for kids because they're all aligned, like they're all waiting. And if anybody makes a mistake in any part of it, it's obvious immediately. And I mean, my tonality is I just help them correct the mistake and get it right. But it's a really cool way to train it. So lead horizontal, rear downward diagonal, lead rising diagonal, and rear rising diagonal. There are 9 elbows in the WTBA. We're technically doing number 1 with the lead, number 3 with the rear, and number 2 on both sides. Now, the rising diagonal, when you do it with your right elbow and cover left, this is technically angle 9, right? Just on the high line from a Eskrima 1, right? Here, rising diagonal. Usually you do that to the knees, but here we're just talking about the line. And then when you do it with the left and cover right, here's angle 10 of a Eskrima 1. Again, though, just on the high line instead of going after the knees. All right, so I'm always looking to make this as learnable as possible. So I'm never trying to prove some kind of point or something like that. It's if you train FMA with me, the first angle of a Eskrima 1 is that's your downward diagonal line, right? Or downward rear diagonal elbow. That's the line of that elbow. The lead horizontal, I mean, you could technically say that's a high angle 4 because angle 4 is usually along the waist or the belt line. So this is here. Okay, so the 4 elbows that I require in the first level for solo tools: lead horizontal, rear downward diagonal, rising diagonal on both sides. And the rising diagonal, it's a lot like the uppercuts. We work the uppercuts on both leads, both lead and rear. And so those are the elbows that I require. Now, again, you are welcome to experiment with rear horizontal. You're welcome to experiment with lead downward diagonal, but they're not required. In the WTBA, you have to work as you learn them, all 9 elbows on both leads to at least experience them. Myself, doing the downward diagonal with the lead, I don't like that elbow. It doesn't fit me. I'm not saying it's not good. That feels bizarre to me. But like everything, you should experience it so that you know what it is. So the other solo tool is going to be straight knee number 1. So the straight knee family, which we'll go through all of them today, especially as we move into level 2 in a few moments here. The straight knee is all your, if you think of it in your static kick stance, you're coming in with this spearing type knee, getting up. Let me make sure you can see it. Getting up on the ball of your left foot and rotating in to really penetrate and break ribs. Like that's your goal. You want to try to avoid though kneeing up and losing your balance and setting down in a right lead. You want to try working knee with extension and then coming back and replacing to a left, your left lead. And once again, the modality that I've been explaining, for people who are just learning, we're doing all this out of a static kick stance. For people who have a little bit more time, we're doing all of this out of a mobile kick stance, okay? So whether you're here, you know, or you're here, straight knee number one, and like I said, there's going to be 3 of these. We're going to go over all of them in this session today. Straight knee number one, your hands go out like this. Fingers up, right, towards the ceiling. Right hand in front of the left hand, palm out. And remember, we're in martial athletics, so this is not like a finger jab. That would be illegal. That would get you disqualified in Thai boxing, right? Amateur or professional. That's not acceptable. It's against the rules. So your straight knee number one is there, okay? And I want to sink my hands. My hands are reaching that extension as my knee reaches its extension. And you can, again, if you're feeling good about your mobile kick stance, you can play with that out of your mobile kick stance. If you're just kind of getting your bearings with this, you can be static and then play with it out of there. But you know what I'm going to like about this recording is I'm explaining to you my progression for helping people develop these solo tools. Newer people, they're just working it out of their static kick stance. And then, you know, you'd work it and you'd return. The more experienced people, you're in your mobile kick stance, executing, you know, whatever tools you're working on, and then returning to your mobile kick stance. So a quick word in Thai boxing on the verbalization, because I said I'd cover it. When we punch or when we maybe work on head movement, we say ish, I-S-H. Some people really hit the I sound and some people really just say shh. They just make the SH sound. That's for your punches and like if you're working on slipping and stuff like that. And they don't, in Thai boxing, even though we have that bob and weave in the focus mitt drill, they're weary of like too much bobbing and weaving because the knees are legal, okay? But it's still good to develop it. When we elbow, again, we say sock, and that means elbow, okay? So we say sock. So, I mean, you'll have people, sock, okay? Like that's kind of starting to develop that verbalization. When we do a straight knee, we say tang, and that means spear in Thai, right? Like everybody knows what a spear is. If this had a barbed tip and I'm trying to spear you, that's a spear. And the reason we're saying spear in Thai, it's a reminder that straight knees are supposed to pivot in and spear in and do as much damage as possible, okay? So tang is the verbalization for that. And, you know, last kickboxing session, I covered this, so I'll do this lightning quick. The expression getting the wind knocked out of you. You get hit the wrong way, carbon dioxide forcibly expelled from your respiratory system leads to the feeling of not being able to breathe. Let's say that like a computer, you know, figuratively, it takes you 30 seconds, which is really quite short, for that feeling to go away. 30 seconds of feeling like you can't breathe is too long, whether that's a martial athletics environment, whether that's a real fight, that's too long. So the verbalization is about keeping your breath going to minimize the chances of getting the wind knocked out of you. Okay? Sock, sock, tang, sock. Okay? That's where it's at. And again, you know, I talk about this a lot. I was talking about this last night in the context of stick fighting. To the uninitiated, it's like, wait, what's that person doing? Okay? And sometimes strategically, things that you do that make your opponents think you're a little bit crazy, that's that nice psych warfare aspect. And if that gets in their head and affects their thinking at all, then it's a benefit. Okay, so that's the verbalization. For kicks, we say oi. Okay, so again, it's if you're not initiated, you know, sop, tang, oi, like it. That's how we'll shadow box it as well. And I don't know, for me, any kind of feeling self-conscious goes away in about 10 seconds as I'm just trying to focus on what I'm supposed to be saying. Okay, so those are the solo demo requirements for the level 1 Thai boxing, and we'll get back into that subsection. There are hours and hours and hours and hours of footage on YouTube on my channel of this next drill, which is the World Thai Boxing Association Focus Mitt drill, which is a freelance drill, right? But we have so many basics, and we've been training it through the technology. So, right, so I'd be in a left lead, you'd be in a left lead. When I flash indicate this glove, it's for your jab. When, you know, let me change the view on this for the recording. You know, so this is for your jab here. This is for your cross here. The 4 count is jab, cross, hook, cross. Cross, hook, cross, nice. When I bob and weave you this way, you hook and cross. That's it. When I bob and weave you this way, you cross, hook, cross. Good. When I hit you with the low body shot here, you come back with right uppercut, hook and cross. And when I hit you low on this side, you left uppercut and cross. Okay, so the easiest way to break it down is there's 3 offensive tools. 2 of them are single punches, the jab, the cross. Then you have 1 offensive combo, is the 4 count, jab, cross, hook, cross. And we're going to do a little bit of work with 4 counts in the context of boxing in a few minutes here in level 2. Those are the offensive tools. And there's more than that eventually layers in. But in the very beginning, this is totally, it's great for developing your foundation. Then if the bob and weave starts here, I'm bobbing and weaving to hook cross because my body weight is to the side. If I'm going this way, that's from this direction. Here's my bob and weave, cross, hook, cross. So one of them, your weight is to the side, hook, cross. The other one, your weight is back, cross, hook, cross. When you low ride, I'll share my little secret for memorizing this with you. So let's say I ride on this side, right? They gave me the low hook simulation on this side. I always come back with the opposite side uppercut. So I got hit on the left side of my body, right uppercut, hook, and cross. If I get hit on the right side of my body, left uppercut and cross. Okay, so and this is the other way I explain it, bob and weave or low ride, you're gonna come back with either 2 or 3 punches. How do you know how many? End on the cross. end on the cross. Okay, if the cross is your first punch, that can't be. It's either 2 or 3 punches, and you end on the cross. If I bob and weave here, hook, cross, 2 punches, right? If I bob and weave here, cross, hook, cross. It can't be only 1 punch for this drill. So it's 2 or 3 punches, end on the cross. When I ride here on my left side, I'm coming back right uppercut, hook, and cross. 3 punches on that side, end on the cross. When I low ride on my right side, left uppercut and cross, and I'm done. And that's it, okay? And normally it would be a freelance round, like we pay respects and we'd move around. The other thing that's really hard through the technology, and I have a lot of respect for my students who have been training through the technology, because this is actually a drill that you can make the best out of, and like you can simulate it. And like I say, there's hours and hours and hours of footage, especially in my kids programs. We do it almost every class. It's a really good modality. Again, I know I'm talking a lot about teaching kids. Once they learn it, what I like to do, and this has worked very well for me in a traditional class, is I go from the senior most to the junior most student, and I call them up one at a time and I hold a round for them for a minute or so. The advanced kids just go for it and they hit hard. And I mean, one thing about that drill for me, again, because I'm not training fighters, if I were training fighters, this would probably look different. I don't ever like tee off on the person. When you hold this drill for people, like a lot of different martial arts contexts, the holder is at an incredible advantage. The holder's not responsible for good boxing form. The trainee is. So this person holding mitts, like I say, is at an incredible advantage. The trainee is at an incredible disadvantage, because as I'm watching you, move, I'm noticing gaps in your structure, and I'm figuring out how to hit you, right? And I have the luxury, you're not hitting back when I'm the holder. So I have the luxury, if I notice that you jab like this, you stick your chin out, and and you don't, and you're not doing the third point of protection. Well, I'm gonna keep having you do that, and then eventually I'm gonna show you that deficiency. Okay, and Ajahn Chai doesn't have an actual like headquarters, an academy. He has his representative instructors, and for the past, because TBA is founded in 1968, and for all those years he's mainly taught through seminars and workshops, and then our Oregon camp is how things operate. So everybody who's tested for instructor has usually done so at a weekend event or a multi-day training event. The old requirement, I don't know how this works today, because Ajahn's getting a little bit older. He's got a few health issues. He doesn't hold pads for anybody anymore, unfortunately. So I feel very lucky. The old requirement, you had to get in a boxing ring and have Ajahn Chai hold this sequence for you freelance, and it's terrifying because again, he can hit you. Really, Ajahn can, like, he just looks at you and he already knows how to hit you. And again, the person holding the mitts is at a great advantage. But that's the WTBA Focus Mitt series, and you can always search AJARN, Ajahn Chai, CHAI, Focus Mitts, and there's tons of footage from seminars over the years of him holding this drill for people. And last thing I'm going to say about this, again, I'm not There's no kind of like, I know more factor. I don't. I have different sensibilities, and I'm training people in like a martial academia kind of an environment. I'm not producing fighters. If I were, their training would look, for Thai boxing, I'm not producing fighters. If I were, their training would look very, very different than like a martial scholarship kind of an application. But it's something to see. It's a really good drill, very good drill, and something, if you become a good holder, something you can have a lot of fun with in your organization, kids or adults. But the kids, you know, important if you teach children. The adults are looking to you as the instructor to instill discipline, and the relative level of severity of that discipline varies from parent to parent. For me, my style, you know, some push-ups when things aren't done properly. I don't feel that badly about that for kids. The parents seem to like that. Again, this drill is a really good drill for really bringing up the level of confidence in the youth participant. And it's usually the parents that are like, you know, you can hit little Johnny harder, right? When you hold them, it's like, yeah, I got you. Okay, it's like, I think little Johnny's fine, and I think you might need to talk to somebody about your repressed anger. I'm gonna continue holding this drill as I see fit. Okay, so good. We have everything. Okay, kicks. So, you know, I've explained to you before. I mean, I need to suck it up and probably buy something that I can actually kick and keep it in my living room, even though my wife's gonna love that. But I probably need to. But I've been trying to explain Thai kicks. I tried to explain them to you last weekend. And again, I'm not gonna actually kick my chair, but this way I have something, you know, like a tangible target. So I always equate Thai kicking to swinging a baseball bat, because you swing all the way through, right? You swing with like calculated abandon, because you're trying to connect with that ball and have it go as far as possible. Versus savate or jungfon kind of kicks, which are a whip, like a snapping, and we'll get there, you know, in a moment. 3 different things you can do with your hands. I like to teach all of them because it's changed over the years that I've been involved with the WTBA. Your same side hand as the leg that's kicking can drop. Your opposite side hand can cover across your face. So you end up with this kind of complementary. See what's going on the high line? It complements what's going on the low line. And I'm getting up on the ball of my supporting foot so that I pivot in, like, again, like a baseball bat, swinging. Like, imagine your shin is the bat. That's what I mean by baseball bat here. So that's the first one. The second one is more what I've spent a lot of time on, and will most of the time comes out for me unless I'm purposely doing the others. Same side hand as the leg that's kicking sticks out. This is not a simultaneous punch and kick. You're just sticking this hand out so they can't punch you. Because when you kick with your, that looks really good, Karen. When you kick with your shin, you're closer, right? So a lot of times you're in punching range in that moment. So this really comes from Bryan Dobler, who's an ex-pro Thai fighter, as well as he has Ajahn status under Ajahn Chai. He's one of our senior instructors in the WTBA. That's really how he likes to kick, and he's had a huge amount of success with that. That way, in that moment, they can't throw hands. It's that line is occupied. Okay, so that's the second option. The third option is what we're doing now. And if I'm being honest, it's not my favorite because I spent so much time learning the first way. Then I spent so much time changing that. And like it's really hard for me not to do version number 2 now. Version number 3 is very similar to version number 2, but you start closed and swing this out. So instead of just kind of sticking it out, you start actually closed and swing into that. Okay, so last year when society was open, I was asking one of my friends, another one of the senior guys in the organization, I'm like, what do you do with the hands? And he said the same thing. He said, I teach all 3. I let my students decide which one they want to do, and that's what I like to do. Okay, so for all of you, for Thai boxing, your rear leg is perpetually loaded or armed. That means that your lead leg is perpetually unloaded or unarmed. So you have to arm it. The rear doesn't require that. It's in the rear. There's enough distance to just swing it and be able to do that baseball bat kind of idea with your shin on the, pivoting on the supporting foot. For the lead, we start everybody the same way. Yeah, that's a very good, that's exactly right. The third one looks a lot like the Dracula structure from Dog Brothers. Absolutely. So, I'm not being passive aggressive when I say this. I'm very clear on instructor protocols. I'm not allowed to teach Dog Brothers through video. So, but you're absolutely correct. So anybody who'd like to learn more about Dracula structure in the context of Kali Tudo, that's the name of that block of material is a purposeful play on words, not Volley Tudo, Kali Tudo. You should check out dogbrothers.com. But the two of you are absolutely correct. That is that Dracula structure, right? So with the third option. So once again, everybody, super quick. Number 1, same side hand as the leg that's kicking drops, and you cover across your face. Second one, you stick out like on the punching line, the same side hand as the leg that's kicking, and the non-punching side just covers like a boxing structure. And then the third one, you start here and then swing into like a number 2 structure. Okay, and like everything, I've given you the information. Try them out, give them a try, see what you like. Again, I'm always honest about my preferences. Just because it's the current one is number 3, just because that's not my favorite doesn't mean you might not like it. So I'd rather explain it, and then maybe somebody watching will really be awesome at number 3. And then when people say, well, where did you learn that? You can tell, well, I learned it from Crew Bryan. So great, so everybody wins. Okay, so getting back to the lead kick. And the rules are gonna be the same. You're gonna pick one of those 3. It's just, you're gonna switch sides. We start everybody the same way. You're in a left lead, step right, kick left. We start everybody that way. It's telegraphic. I'm not going to lie, it's telegraphic. But you have to develop that lead Thai kick. And that's the first way that we start learning how to arm it. I had to go through the same thing in the early 2000s. That's how we started when I started in Thai boxing. Everybody starts there, is Just step, boom, and unload. Step and kick. So with the lead, if you're working out of an orthodox lead like most of us, that means you're in a left lead, you step right and kick left. And again, you want to get up off your right heel on the ball of your foot. You want to think about your shin like a baseball bat, and you want to fully swing into your target. Okay, so step and kick. And you know, this is something that's best. Rob and Karen are repping it, which is awesome, and that's great. It's great, and you guys can keep doing that as we're moving through this. This is something that's really good. I know this is going to maybe come off as lazy on my part. This is good homework stuff. If you have a heavy bag, or even if you don't, you're like me, but you have something in your home that you can touch, not kick. Touch, not kick, right? That you can do in slow motion. So, like, I mean, this has a little bit of padding. I haven't been going real hard, but if this, just as an example, and I know it's going to sound crazy, let's say this was my refrigerator. I don't want to kick it because I'm going to injure myself, let's be honest, but I could use the corner to just touch lightly and develop that technique, because you need reps, you need flight time with that technique. So step and kick is the first way we develop the lead kick. We're also now going to go to the hop kick, which is what we really want to evolve to. We want to use the step and kick as a kind of a stepping stone for the hop kick, developing our hop kick. Okay, so let me get a little bit more. Sorry, everybody. Here we go. Okay. So I want to be heavy on my, heavy on my rear foot, light on my lead foot. Heavy on my rear foot, heavy on my right foot, light on my lead foot. And what I'm looking to do is, this is really hard to do slowly, so bear with me, everybody. Momentarily put all my weight on my left foot so that I can do a quick lead switch. Okay, and the other thing is I'm not even expressing the soccer kick, which we'll talk about right now. So see that forward momentum? Number one most common mistake is this. Try to avoid this. Okay, you lead switch into this super wide stance and it completely cuts your mobility. So try to avoid that. Slower, I'll do my best. Just that. Just set your weight down on your left foot and take a step forward with your right foot. And then kind of swing that left foot through. Super light. I mean, it shouldn't be something that requires like gymnastics level coordination. Not that there's anything wrong with gymnastics. I think gymnastics are awesome, but this isn't any kind of like a crazy movement that requires that level of body awareness. You just want to kind of rep that out. So that's your hop kick. That's what you want to evolve your lead kick to from the step and kick. So you get so much time stepping and kicking, like feeling that momentum. I'm moving in, boom, stepping and kicking, that turns into that hop kick over time, right? So when I have a target, that's going to be what I'm going for. It's that same baseball bat kick. Your shins are baseball bats. You've got to swing them, or you're not, that ball's not going anywhere, right? You need power in this methodology. Good. Okay. Let's okay, and you know what, I'm just gonna break this recording, so everybody who's watching, please join us on part 2 of this.